part of my everyday like cereal because
cereal with an S or a C?
With a C.
With a C.
Because every morning, pretty much, what I do is go look at a couple of guitar websites to see what has come in. And Wildwood is one of them. So, for example, I could tell you right now that at Wildwood, there are 2 prototypes of your Gristle Master ST.
You are correct.
With no contour on the top of the body for sale in a unique orange color.
You are exactly correct. Cockwork orange, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to talk about this. I don't know if this is something to come out of the gate with, but I'll do it anyway.
Do it.
I was reading I was reading your Wikipedia page, which is not to say the sole bit of my research on this show is reading people's Wikipedia pages. It's one of many things I do to prep for this show. But something that jumped out at me and that I took umbrage with, honestly, musical equipment. It talks about these names. Where is it? Okay, we'll edit this part out where I'm trying to find it. But when I do find it, you'll be like,
I have a list of them.
It says the guitar colors were given, and this is what I took umbrage with. The guitar colors were given somewhat humorous names, like Clockwork Orange and Bluesfur. Who wrote this that decided they could chime in and say, it's somewhat humorous? Humorous. They get somewhat humorous names.
Somewhat humorous.
That's too much editorializing for my tastes.
Yeah, that's like sometimes like he thinks he's funny. He can play, but he thinks he's funny. It's like, well, actually, you know what you can tell when you're funny is when you say shit and people laugh.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
That is the litmus test.
I got in a big internet fight yesterday. I posted something and deleted it because I realized I didn't want to interact with people. But I was saying that blah blah blah. A certain type of person is not funny. And then this person said, well, I'm that type of person and I'm quite funny. And I said, no one that's funny has to say they're quite funny.
Right.
Or somewhat humorous.
And I said, you've proved yeah. That's somewhat let's edit out the part where that story I just told, even though I'll probably tell it on the Moth at some point. No, no. That's my joke about bad stories. Somewhat humorous, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Whoever wrote that, I'm gonna take them out.
I have no idea who wrote that.
I'm enraged.
He's filled with fury.
Let's start this over. I've ruined the episode.
Imagine a world where only guitars mattered.
I'll just say, when we first started this incredible show and we were like, who are we going to get? You were my first choice.
Oh, no way.
Or second, maybe second. I don't know. No, but first. Didn't I say?
Yeah.
Greg would be the best guest.
Well,
ticks all the boxes.
No, I think he is
somewhat humorous.
Somewhat.
Great player.
Yeah, somewhat humorous. You're one of those players, and you're going to think I'm blowing smoke, but like kind of when I watch you, I'm just like,
quit
it. Yeah.
Quit. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It's supposed to be, I want to steal that. That's what I want you to feel.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that shit.
But,
what's the thing when people, because you do give lessons, do you still do that online? You can book a lesson with Greg?
I haven't done it in about a year just because we've been traveling so much and it just becomes a kind of a hassle to schedule all that stuff. But I will do it again when I get a little bit more time. But yes, I've definitely done my fair share of it. Yes.
What's the thing that people ask you the most? Like when they book a lesson with you, are they just like, can you make me as good as you? Like, is there a specific thing?
Well, it's weird because a lot of times, I mean, for instance, if there was, say a certain guitar player, like, whoever it might be that does something that I want to learn. And if I did a lesson with them, I would have my questions ready to go. So I'd be like, hey, when you're doing that one thing and you're doing this, what are you thinking? And what are those chords and you're doing over this thing? Whereas a lot of times people will book a lesson and they'll say, how do I not play the same things over and over again? And and this kind of thing. And so I have kind of standard responses to all this stuff that I'll go down and I'll kind of assess their skill level and kind of pivot from where I need to go. But a lot of times they're like counseling sessions. It's like they never even end up playing. They just want to say, talk about music and so on and so forth. It's very, very odd. It's very different from what I would do if I booked a lesson with somebody. But you know what? That money spends the same, whatever they want to talk about.
I once got in so much trouble doing exactly what you're saying that you would do, though.
What happened?
I was taking lessons from a guitar player called Richard Lloyd, who is in the band Television. And he's awesome. He played on all the Matthew Sweet records and all this stuff. And he's got like this really gnarly attack. And I asked him, I'm like, so when you bend, how do you decide how much too sharp to bend?
Oh.
And he went, what are you talking about?
He wasn't being intentional with his over Sharpie.
And then I tried to crawl into my own butt.
You basically said what I thought. Yeah, I thought you were going to be like, yeah, like there's a lot of really cool slop in your playing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I like how you keep all the mistakes on the record.
Right. That's always a good icebreaker.
So, this is your home. This is the room that during COVID I was watching you play shows in.
This is the second Orange Room. So the first Orange Room that we were doing all the stuff during COVID-19. So I don't know why I have to sing that all the time, but every time
I like that. It makes it makes it less threatening.
It's like a kinder, gentler pestilence, if you will.
Yeah.
And so we started to do. There's a little room in the back of our house that was orange, and it was kind of my wife and mine. Does that make sense? Office. And then the big cove happened, and my son and I started to do live streams from that back room. And then we started to bring more gear in, and then and then I realized at some point the guys from Wildwood, because I was doing videos remotely, right? So they would send me guitars. So the front room of the house became like a shipping and receiving area. And then the back room, if there were single coil guitars, our house is like from 1908, so the wiring is a nightmare. So depending on where I was sitting, it'd be like, and the only way it would stop bending is if I cut the room exactly in half. So we lost a bunch of room. So then we started creeping into the dining room, and my wife was just like, get your shit out of my house. And so she goes, why don't you build a room over the garage? Not me personally, because I'm the anti-handyman, but we did embark on building a new garage. They tore down the old garage, built a new one, and I'm in a room above the garage now, and all of my shnikey is out of the house, much to my wife's delight. But now the thing that's driving her crazy is one of our daughters moved back home, and she plays guitar, so now she has her guitars all over the house, which is awesome.
I literally, if you can't see it because it's off camera, but Dave today.
This factors into the conversation heavily.
So Dave, gets a lot of guitars sent to him, and
because of my sharp bends. No,
because you're somewhat humorous.
I'm somewhat humorous, and I keep a lot of slop in there.
But he literally, because I have a storage space out in New Jersey, he brought 4 cases for me today that I have to disappear for him because he's been flagged.
I flagged myself. My girlfriend's actually really understanding, but it's gotten really. I made up a rule in which she never did this, but I made up a rule that you could only have one guitar in like the common space.
That's a good rule.
But then that I didn't include the bedroom, and now the bedroom is basically our bedroom. Oh, my dad doesn't listen to this. He's gonna find out. But it's just guitar cases everywhere, and so yeah. And I brought some. I would have brought like 10 cases if I could have carried them, but I brought 4 because that's all I could carry.
I got excited when we showed up and
you felt
Dave was stuck in the elevator still, but he had 4 cases. I'm like, what's happening today? It's like, no, they're empty.
Yeah, it would have been a lot of cool guitars. They're all cool guitars. What is it? There's an SG that's really sweet. My Hendrick generator. case. All the guitars I kept at home, but the case.
So these are just the cases.
Yes,
just the case. The guitars are like all in my office or jam room or whatever.
Your lair, if you
my
will.
lair, yeah. So I can just break out a guitar and start ripping solos.
Yeah.
So paint me a picture of this, because this is actually on my little list of questions. Is during COVID, and this won't be a whole COVID revisiting, but these are things that I wanted to know since.
Yeah,
then.
This is a feel-good show.
I know.
I like it.
I've been trying to imagine as you were doing.
Sorry, we'll edit that out.
Because you're doing so many, like the Wildwood demos. Like, what was the incoming and out? Like, how many guitars were arriving at your house every day and leaving, and the boxes and the like? Was it just completely overwhelming? Like, how much stuff was moving in and out?
It wasn't a ton. They would send me. It depends. Like maybe 6 guitars I would get, and then I would send those back like 2 weeks later, and then I would get 6 more, and that's
so it wasn't like every day.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like that, because I mean it just wouldn't have been cost effective for them to do that. So they would send me the stuff, and I would play them in the live stream, and then we'd do individual videos, and then I would pack them up and go down to the UPS office, and those guys got to know me real well down there. Hey, fella. And I would bring the guitars back, and then more would come. But yeah, the front room was a shipping and receiving department. But, it was, I shouldn't say again, making light of the pestilence, because a lot of people, of course, had horrible experiences, including death, I might add.
Yeah.
But for us, for me, it was, I was able to do basically what I did for Wildwood at home. So those checks kept coming. All the stuff I did for Fishman, that all was good. And then people were buying guitars and pickups and pedals and, lessons and at a fever pace, because no one else had anything else to do. You know what I'm saying? So financially, I did well during COVID. And, I think me, like a lot of other people who had, traveled exponentially than the average individual for their livelihood, were like, well, shit, if I can do this stuff from home, why would I ever leave the house again? And then you realize that, because staying at home and not being in front of people is kind of antisocial.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm so naive. I was operating. I thought they just flew you to Wildwood over and over for each guitar demo. I'm like, that's exhausting.
Not for each one.
I'm a simple man.
I do 25 guitars a day when I go out there.
Whoa. How do you maintain? Did you ever just go like? Because that you give them all such attention and enthusiasm and amazing playing, but are there ever ones where we got to do this one over, because you're like, okay, it's a strat. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
That's not really the issue. It's just that the issue is that a lot of these guitars come out of the box and they play like shit. They're just not set up. The intonation is an abomination. Ooh, that rhymed. And the thing is that when they get to the end user, they're all set up and ready to go. But when I get them after they've been maybe sitting in a warehouse for a few months, and then they get them out of the box, and then I'm doing the video, and sometimes when I'm tuning these things, they're going into strange pan-Egyptian tunings. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just very difficult sometimes to do anything musical on those things. That's why I do have kind of a little dossier of riffs and things that I'll do if I'm playing a guitar that is absolutely not cooperating. Like, I'll avoid bending strings.
Please show us, because we need all the tips we can get for.
Well, for instance, if I'm doing, I'll avoid any kind of open strings, and I might do like a little bluesy thing, like, and I'll keep my palm on the bridge that's floating.
It's working, because I'm like, man, I gotta buy that guitar.
It's a good one.
That's that and the green one behind you.
Yeah, the green one's wicked. And the blue one's cool. I kind
All
of
the colors.
I kind of busted the on the way back from Europe a month ago, I guess.
Yeah, you just had a big tour over there.
My guitar, I have this case where it fits 3 guitars in the
A 3-banger.
A 3-banger. It's a guitar group.
Yeah,
I get a 3-banger.
You do.
You just it's one of the and it just stands up, right?
Yes, and it's made out of like airplane aluminum. And anyway, they got kind of dislodged in there, and the guitar took a big chickadoodle, and so there's a little indentation somewhere down here. But I just refer to that as character. I like
people pay extra for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Relicking.
Exactly. This was a little homemade relicking. So
I like it. That's the best kind.
But I just want to go back because I'm so fascinated by this. 25 guitars one day.
Yeah.
Describe, like, do you have a masseuse? An oxygen tank? Like, how does it work? Like,
it's literally, it's like, okay, let's get 12 or so done before lunch, and so right around 9:30 it will begin, and they'll just hand me one right after another, and I mean, there will be a little bit of editing if I do like a total discombobulator, if I screw up, I'll say, yeah, you know what, get me right there. But for the most part, there's very little editing, and we just kind of hammer through. And for the most part, as long as the guitars behave, you can kind of, people think because there's so many of these videos that they can tell when I really like a guitar or not. And they'll go, oh, he really liked that when he played that for a long time, or his eyebrow moved or whatever. I'm like, weird, but I'll take it. But mostly it just depends if the guitar's staying in tune and it plays halfway decent, and then I'll keep at it for a while. But
so there's people scrutinizing your demo videos, trying to determine whether you like the guitar or not.
Well, according to the Wildwood people, yes, they're like, yeah, people think that you really liked it because of X, Y, and Z. And
did you see how he flipped up his collar? That means he likes that one.
Exactly. Just like, interesting. Actually, I just had an itch, but be that as it may. So yeah, mostly it's a good time. I mean, because I just like playing. So if I'm sitting in a room, I mean, that's over the years, people have said, how could you still do that after 12 years? And it's because I get paid pretty well to sit in a room and play really nice guitars, and I get to play whatever I want and kind of say whatever I want. And then after we're done with 25 guitars, which sometimes, takes me till 3:00 in the afternoon, then I go for a stroll in the Rockies, get some kind of a delicious feast. And then the next morning we start all over again. So it's been a fun ride. It's been weird. I mean, I never would have thought in a million years the thing that kind of brought me to the attention of most of the people that now follow me are those freaking videos. But hey, I'll take it.
Is that really what happened? Like, you started that the Wildwood videos had like the effect of
absolutely. It's crazy. I mean, as much as I did. Prior to that, I did that Fender. I was kind of Fender's guy that went all over the place doing clinics and shows, and in their words, not mine, kind of their ambassador, if you will. I did that for about 15 years. I was never an employee of theirs, but I just was someone they used all the time. And I felt so used, and it felt so right. And then I did the thing for Hal Leonard, where I rewrote the guitar method and did a bunch of clinics for them. And, I had various different record deals, wrote for different magazines, all that kind of fun stuff. And, but then when I started doing the Wildwood thing, it was really just kind of me just being me and just playing and as, being, whatever kind of a personality I have, was able to shine through. And that's how people found out about me. So when we go out and do gigs, especially after COVID, there it is again. But after COVID, I started to do gigs a lot more with the band, and we'd show up and people would show up and they would be like, man, I saw you doing Wildwood guitar videos for years, or, I saw you in the Orange Room, yada, yada, yada. So it's definitely, that was the catalyst for most people to find out, especially like name guitar players. It's been so odd to have people come up and be like, oh, like first time I met Joe Satriani, he's like, hey, Greg, he was really, really sweet and came up. It's like, been watching your videos forever, and this is my wife, and da-da-da-da. I was like, you're Joe Satriani. I should be, freaking out. You know what I mean? And he's just the nicest guy. But guys like that are Joe Walsh called the store and said, "Is Greg out there all the time, or is he just to come in?" I'm like, "What?"
So Joe Walsh wanted to party with you.
Well, in a kind of sober kind of way.
Yeah.
Frescas all around.
People ever call it, "Do Gretsch Red Sparkle Jet request like demo."
Hey,
I'm sorry. Edit that question out.
That would be humorous if they did.
It'd be somewhat humorous. Yes. I'm on the show just to add somewhat humorous comments. Most of them edit out. Do
you find, like, I used to work at Guitar World magazine. And,
yes.
Not to brag, but
not to brag. Is that really a brag? I don't know. It's just my past.
I just like to say it.
But we
and Guitar Aficionado
had a room, and there probably still is a room at where all the stuff came in. And guitars come in, and I have to say, every time you open a case, there's like this hope that never goes away that you're about to open the case for like this is going to be the best. Like, you still, when you, even with all of these guitars and you're like, here's a new one, like, do you get a little rush from each guitar, or is your soul dead?
No, I do love them. I think the whole reason why the videos work is because I'm actually contemplating if I should get that guitar or not in a lot of instances. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of guitars that I end up doing demos on where as I'm playing it, I'm having the dialogue in my mind of, should I get this? What can I get rid of to get this one? Would it be weird if I got this one? I mean, why should I get this one? I mean, because I like the color. I mean, I've already got enough strap. It's
right.
I still dig it. Yes. So I have a thing, and of course I love Fender guitars, and of course I love the Reverend guitars because I can actually afford them, which is great. But whenever it's Gibson Day, Wildwood gets their Wildwood spec Les Pauls are just. They're just so delightful, but they're not inexpensive. But every day when it's Gibson Day and I see all those cases lined up, and I know I'm going to be
Murphy Labs.
Exactly. A Murphy Lab, Wildwood spec, Murphy painted and aged by himself. That's like the holy grail of Les Pauls at this point in time. If you can get one of those, you might have to harvest an organ, but doggone it, it'll be worth it.
Worth it. Yeah. Who needs a pancreas anyway?
That's right. Or a duodenum or a duodenum.
Yeah, don't even get me started.
I don't even know what that means. It's hard to say.
No one does. It's down in the, who knows? You incorporate so many, I think, and I'm not just saying this, but you incorporate all these different styles and influences in a super organic way that is totally ultimately then your style. Is all this making sense?
So far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
I have had a lot of Earl Grey tea this morning. But do you have a favorite? And if so, what is it?
Well, that's a good question.
I'm a new blues album as just one example. And this wasn't a long tee up to the album either. So
I think it might have been.
But it also is.
Yes.
But the weirdest thing is that, I started off being a blues rock. That's what I wanted to do. I was a huge Hendrix fanatic and Cream era Clapton. And I always kind of say Cream era Clapton. Really Clapton up till Derek and the Dominoes. He still was cool after that.
Like Strat, when he got the Strat, you were like, no.
Well, he was still great on the Strat on Derek and the Dominoes, but just like his intention changed. I refer to it as before 1970, he was a pirate, right? And then after 1970, he was a retired gentleman pirate. You know what I'm saying?
I'm strictly and it's in the way that you use it, Clapton guy.
Oh, you are? No, it's in the way that you use it.
I think that's the worst.
Only Clapton
moment.
With a chorus pedal for me.
Take that out where I said it was really bad.
No, that's all right. That's glorious.
I would say it's the worst. No, but I agree. You want to go early Clapton.
So he was your guy.
Those two guys were my kind of true norths. And then of course Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck and Mike Bloomfield and Dickie Betts and Dwayne Allman and yada yada yada. But I was pretty much kind of a music geek early on before I even started playing. So I did a report on Jimi Hendrix when I was like in third grade. So I read a bunch of books on these guys, and so I would always hear names like B.B. King and Albert King and Freddie King and Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. So I kind of wanted to go back and hear where they got it from, because when I started to play guitar, I wanted to, I was like, well, I'm gonna do this for a living. I got to do my own thing, because that's the thing I really noticed about Hendrix and Clapton's. Like, you knew who their influences were, but they did their own thing with them. And I thought, well, that would be my job description if I choose this glorious and affluent lifestyle of musics. And so I discovered who they were into, and then who they were into, and then just tried to punt it down the field a little bit. So as I like to say, the soft underbelly of all my musical musings is this blues filth. And then all the other stuff, the country stuff and the jazz and all that, and the funky stuff. To me, it's all related. They're all tangential to that original vision, if you will.
Yeah.
But when it all comes down to it, I like that bluesy swill. That's why this record has been fun to put out, because I had a great one the other day. Because all my records, as I said, there's always this soft underbelly of blues stuff. But I thought my job description was to be different. So I would make sure that it wasn't just a 12-bar blues. It would have, different elements in it. The lyrics were kind of more humorous, or, a little bit different than, I went down to the crossroads and sold something. And so I try to do all these different things. But the average jamoke, without the soft serving of propaganda, cannot discern the different. So as a result, it's like, I had this guy make a comment the other day when I put out this blues record, which literally my criteria for going through my back catalog was, what are the 12-bar blues songs, or the closest thing to it that I actually have in my arsenal? And we'll put that on the record along with these 2 new tracks, which are just straight blues songs. And so this guy goes, I really love your new record. It's so weird hearing you play normal music. Like, I wasn't aware that the other stuff was like this atonal, Schoenberg 12-tone row exploration.
I think it's a compliment, right? He meant it that way.
I think the passive aggressivity of the internet is like going to be its great legacy.
Right. Well, I think I took it as a compliment, but I just thought it was humorous that the other stuff to him was just so off the beaten track that it was not normal music, but this was more digestible. So therefore it's normal. I'm like, okay. And believe you me, I was just talking about this the other day with our buddy Jeff McErlane. We were talking about how,
yes,
I was just talking about how we're lucky to have anything, because, as you know, when you've been doing this long enough, you realize there's no accounting for people's taste. You have no idea how they're processing information, how they're listening stuff. So you got to be grateful for however they come at you. And so that's where I'm at. It's like, you're playing normal music now. Okay. All right. If you dig it, that's good. I still like the other stuff, but I still like the weird stuff. But if you like the normal stuff, thanks.
How did you? I mean, you actually mentioned this in an interview that I watched yesterday. That you did not get into the metal. I mean, we both, like the two of us. That's like that blues and all that stuff, and learn some of that stuff, and then like the little metal demon showed up, and we're just like we follow him,
or
her, or them,
right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. For me, like some people, like I just remember being like a kid and getting into all this stuff we're talking about already, and then it was verboten. Like people were like, you can't go listen to this stuff, not because of the satanic aspect, which is clearly there. But I just look at music, it's like a big buffet, and be like, you can't listen, and it's like a buffet. You can be like, yeah, I had the green beans, now I'm having a bit of ambrosia, but
right.
But like I learned how to play blues power, or tried to, like when I was 20, but I can definitely say that when I was 13, I did not have the maturity to be like Albert King is really good. Like you were just a young kid and you managed to avoid.
Well, I think part of it was because I was born in '66, so I'm a Gen Xer, right? So what I found was that most of the people that were my age were actually like the oldest in their family, whereas I was an oops. So I was like a de facto baby boomer.
You had 7 kids in your family?
Exactly. So and I had a room with my brother, so I got into all of his music and all my sister's music. So, I mean, and I was listening to Hendrix and, Cream and James Gang and Grand Funk Railroad and Stones and God knows what else, when I was really young, before like most of my friends were even aware of something other than Sesame Street, you know? So like when Kiss came out, I remember people in my grade school had Kiss records. I'm like, this isn't a band. This is a costume show. You know what I mean? Just because I had listened to all this other stuff. If I was just somebody who's listening to Kiss for the first time, I would have thought it was awesome. So that's really the only reason why I wasn't a metal guy from the get. I mean, I always say this, and
you're basically saying like I wasn't a metal guy because I knew better.
Well, that would be a little douchey, but
also not wrong. But I go back to that food analogy. Like I know it's wrong, but I'm gonna have the Doritos anyway.
Well, here's the funny thing. It's like I had the first 3 Van Halen records, right? I heard I was actually frightened driving in my sister's like 1978. I was a passenger in my sister's 1978 Chevette. Remember those little things? They were like this.
You were frightened because it was a Chevette, or
well, that part of it. But on the AM radio, "Running with the Devil" came on, and of course, being raised Catholic, I always assumed the devil was around the corner, waiting for me to stumble. You know what I'm saying?
And he was.
Exactly. And I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is terrifying, but glorious." So I couldn't wait to get that Van Halen record. But it's kind of scared me because there was, and then on PBS there was some vampire program that again toyed with my Catholic brain, because of course all this stuff can happen unless you have a cross and holy water, right?
Oh yeah, you have to be vigilant.
Exactly.
As a Catholic child, I would go to the record store and like the metals. I'd touch a Venom record and be like, I have to go wash my hands.
Yes. Well, then you'll enjoy this story. When I was a kid, so The Exorcist came out. Of course, I'm way too young to have seen the movie, but all my older siblings went and they came home and they're talking about this movie. And of course, for a Catholic, you're like, well, that shit happens. This is real. So I was terrified of, like, you know, in the middle of the night, I was going to get possessed or some kind of weird shit. And I remember not being able to sleep one night. The room's dark. And I'm swearing I'm seeing stuff move around. So I go into my parents' room, Mom, Dad, I'm scared of all this devil stuff. So my mom's like, don't you worry. And she gets up, she puts this rosary around my neck and then covers my bed with holy water and says, you're fine. I'm like, what if you missed the spot? You know, I was terrified. So yeah, that whole Catholic thing was an interesting ride, shall we say.
And it stays with you till you die.
It does.
You try to shake it off. It'll ruin your life.
So I got the Van Halen record, got the second Van Halen record, and I just started playing guitar. But for whatever reason, I had no desire to learn how to play that stuff. And then once the third record came out, which was the one with Everybody Wants Some, and then MTV came out, and then I saw those guys, and I was like, nope, sorry. Once I saw David Lee Roth, I was like, I can't support this. I'm not about this life. You know what I mean? It's like I'm used to like Zeppelin guys. Yeah, there's a little paunciness in old Bob Plant, but Jimmy Page, a terrifying rock god of the coolest variety, and of course,
actually, and probably the most satanic person you've ever learned to lick from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, for actual.
Exactly. So once that happened, it's like I was kind of
no. He collected knives.
Yeah, Jimmy Page was. I'm actually reading yet another Jimmy Page biography, and this one gets pretty into depth into his esoteric leanings.
Oh, is this Magus Magician or whatever?
This is a different one. And the only reason why
what is it? I want to read it tonight.
It's called. It's just called The Definitive Biography. Jimmy Page.
Oh wow!
Who wrote that?
Let me see what it says here, dog.
Jimmy Page.
No, he actually says that he's got his autobiography written, but that he won't release it till after he's dead because he doesn't want to get in trouble with the law.
That's totally, dude. He was, yeah.
It's by Chris Salewitz.
Oh yes,
Chris Salewitz. Jimmy Page, The Definitive Biography.
I'm curious if you ever got into Roy Buchanan at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a total
a lot
Roy.
of people, we talk about all the others, but it's like a lot of people. I don't know.
He was amazing.
Seem to, I don't know. They never mention him.
Well, Roy's. I get accused of pilfering a lot of Roy's things, and I'm guilty as charged. There's a lot of stuff I learned from him and Danny Gatton. I got to know Danny Gatton a bit, but Roy, I never did run across before his untimely passing. But I remember the early Roy records were not something that my siblings had, so I was blissfully unaware of him until in the 80s. He got that kind of his second career was when he got signed to Alligator Records, and he started putting out these blues records. And the first one was When a Guitar Plays the Blues. Mm-hmm. And I heard that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, who is this mutant? And so I got that record right away. And then I went off to college, and I remember there was a up in University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, there was a blues hour on their campus radio station. And I came back to my room after taking a shower, and I'm sitting there getting dressed, and I'm hearing this blues song, and I'm hearing this guy play I knew it was a Telecaster, but he was doing all these things that sounded like Hendrix, like in Machine Gun, where you're like, you know, and I'm like, oh my, I like stood in my tracks, like, oh my God. And instinctively I go, that's got to be Roy Buchanan. And then ever since then, I was just an absolute freak for old Roy.
It was amazing. Have you ever been into, are you hip to Glenn Schwartz?
No.
Oh, you got he's a loose. He died a few years ago. He was in the James Gang, and he was this guy in Cleveland. And Joe Walsh is like a huge fan. I think he did like a record or did some stuff with Joe Walsh and Dan Auerbach, a few years before he died. But it's like Hendrix loved him, Jimmy Page loved him, and he like his story is out of like a movie. Like he went to California, had an acid freak out, I guess, and found the Lord, started preaching on the street, and then moved back to Cleveland and would like do these fire and brimstone, just saying like crazy Bible stuff while playing amazing blues guitar.
Interesting.
You gotta, go down the wormhole.
That's all right. I've written it down.
Gift to you. But
thank you.
Before I forget, and you know, we'll edit this, and we'll edit this. Most of the stuff I say gets edited out. I should be clear about this. I'm not actually in any of the show's advertisements, but Albert King has come up a few times. Have you seen that clip? I'm sure he did this more than just the clip I saw, but there's this clip that was going around recently where right before he solos, he goes, "Excuse me," and then he just rips.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, I'm going to do that from now on before every solo. It's
excuse me. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome.
It's the best move. And then he rips, a sweet solo.
And you know what? Albert King never gets old. It's like I can listen to that anytime. It's like it's just tugs at the old soul strings.
Yeah. Playing like an upside down V with the strap the wrong way, like just balls. Insanity.
Yes.
Plus, like those dudes came from hell. I mean, not the hell. So do you know who Alan Paul is? He wrote the
exactly, the Allman Brothers stuff.
Yeah, he was my first boss. But he once interviewed Albert, right, back in the day at Guitar World, and then asked Albert King to sign something for him. And like Albert King like looked at him like, why are you asking me to like do this? And kind of just like wrote like I don't know if it was an X or something, but like something like those dudes like came from nowhere.
Right.
They could not like they did not go to school. Like they came from
hard knocks.
Yeah. Like the hardest of, that was a very awkward moment in guitar journalism history, apparently.
I used to work one of my first jobs out of college was working for the Chess family.
Oh, no kidding.
They had a publishing company with the Goodman family, and so it was all jazz and blues stuff. And a big part of the thing was like chasing down, because I guess John Lee Hooker would just go around and sign publishing deals over and over for the same songs, and then it was just like dealing with the fights that's amazing occurred as a result of him just being like, "Yeah, I'll sign that." Okay,
I'll take that money. Thank you very much indeed.
So we'll edit that out.
No, it's a good story. I like it. I do have a good Albert King story.
Oh yes.
So
please. Was he taller than you, or
he was 6'4" and I'm 6'7".
Yeah, 6'4". Come on.
I like that though. I have the Bluesman height chart. Right
exactly.
Here.
So we were playing. I was a youngin. I was playing with a buddy of mine. There's used to be there still is a festival in Milwaukee called Summerfest. It's kind of a big deal. And they used to have these cool stages that were genre specific. And for a while there, they had a Cajun stage right next to the blues stage, which was a little redundant-ish, but hey, whatever. So we're at this Cajun tent. And even though we were playing in a blues band, and I was filling in with this buddy of mine's band, and we're doing some slow blues song, and he's like, take a solo. So I take a solo, and I knew Albert King was playing at the adjacent stage that night. But anyway, so I do my solo, my eyes are closed, I'm going shweedle, 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 I get done, and the crowd's kind of reacting to what I did, and I turn around and open my eyes, and I see Albert King down by the front of the stage on the fence looking at me going like this. And I thought that this is the greatest moment of my entire life. But of course, then we take a break, and the older dudes that I was playing with, Albert King liked your solo. We should ask him if he'll sit down. And I go, no, don't fuck it up. Don't talk to him. And of course they did. They went on his bus and they're like, hey, Albert, you want to sit in with us? He's like, hell no, get off my bus. And then I saw him later and I just want to shake your hand. And he just smiled and shook my hand. I was like, that's all I want. I don't want to engage in any kind of,
that's amazing.
Sycophantic banter. I just want to get the vibes and get out the door.
I've been anointed.
That's right. I got the thumbs up. I don't need anything else.
Wow, that's amazing. So, can I make a complete left turn?
Yeah. We'll edit it out.
Okay. I've spent a lot of time looking at your guitars online because at Wildwood, there'll be like it'll be like you go in Wildwood Guitars, you'll go in the morning and see like what's new. And it'll be like 7 new of your guitars.
Right.
Like, the Reverend.
Yeah, the Reverend.
Yeah.
How did you decide to do your guitars for people not looking? All have like that, the T style has the raised Firebird type vibe.
Yeah, I love that.
Is this one chambered as well on the horn? Because I know
just chambered. Yeah,
probably was.
In case you want to stash a little contraband in there when you're going across the border, there's a little cavity in there.
Oh,
smugglers!
Smugglers get fiddle. But what happened is that when we were doing the original one I did with them, the Gristle Master, which is more of a Teles type guitar. I don't have it in here. I have a guitar that this guy made out in California, which is actually a Firebird body with a bolt-on Tele neck and like Tele controls. And Joe Naylor, who designs the guitars for Reverend, when we were putting together ideas for my Teles type guitar, which, the body was going to be a little bit larger, we decided on that, what kind of bridge it was going to have, neck radius, all that kind of shit. And then he's like, hey, that weird Firebirdy guitar you have? He goes, what if we did a raised middle section on that? Like, I was like, that'd be awesome. So that's how that ended up happening. And then in retrospect, so the actual thickness of that raised section is the traditional width of the T style, the S style guitar. And so everything else is kind of recessed a little bit. So that kind of works as weight relief in a way as well.
Are you a weight guy? Like I was talking,
yes.
I had this discussion.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
That like Les Pauls.
That's the big thing.
Les Pauls need to be less than 9 pounds. Telecasters less than 7 pounds, and Stratocasters less than 7.5.
I'm not. As long as it's 7.5 ish or below, I'm good.
See?
All right.
I mean, and that's not to say that if like there's sometimes at Wildwood I'll play, especially like Les Paul customs because they're mahogany. They're always heavier. They're always like 10 pounds, like 9.5, 10 pounds. And I could still deal with it. It wouldn't be the end of the world. But I have a tendency to like lighter guitars, but it's not a deal breaker.
But is that part of why you do have the chambering? Is that for like?
Yeah, we definitely wanted it to keep it reasonable. So all of the guitars are about 7.5 or a little bit less.
They should make them so you can just flip it up. I mean, I realize I'm not an idiot. I realize there's stuff under there sometimes, but just to put like I don't know, stuff in there.
A gree.
Yeah.
Yes.
In there? No, you're a Catholic.
Right. Reformed. I'm a Reformed Catholic.
My moto model. I have an actual zipper up on the horn for my S model that I make, and it's like all black leather.
I thought you said
I put an
ass
actual
model for a
zipper
second.
pocket in it, so it's routed out. Kind of probably similar to that.
Oh, it's routed out, so
It's
you can
routed
put
out so
like
you can
drop a
use
bunch
the
of
actual-
stuff. Oh,
Yes.
finally, I can
Zipper,
stop
whatever.
butt chugging. We'll edit it out.
Butt chugger.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
With the P90 one.
Yes.
The middle one. What's it? I'm not gonna look at my notes. It's the Gristle 90.
The Gristle 90. That's correct.
That one has a 24 3/4 inch scale, so it's basically more of a G type.
Correct.
Made out of Carina, like with the ebony board, like that's a whole different kind of woods you're trying to get. Like that's a whole different ball game. Was that a lot harder to pull off in like a normal price point, et cetera, et cetera?
It was a little more expensive than the original one, but not by much. I think maybe $100 or $150 more, if I recall correctly. But yeah, that turned out good because I wanted kind of a more of a G style, T style. Ooh, see what we did? A little G style, T style action. And a set neck, with the ebony fingerboard, and then a Bigsby Mr. Wiggles on it.
That's the one I want.
It's cool.
Me too. I was looking at him yesterday. Maybe we could get a deal where
absolutely
you pay full price and I'll get it for free, and that way I'm talking to Tom right now. He pays full price and I get it for free, and then we just both get half off in the end.
I like that kind of math.
That's like yeah. Wait a second.
It doesn't work out great for you. We'll listen back to this and you'll realize.
Fear not. If you are interested in such an instrument, I know a guy that
guy
will make you an offer you can't understand, and away we go.
Do you have we'll edit like all things I bring up. We'll edit this out. But do you have a favorite? Do you prefer one model to the other one? What's the Gristle Master, the ultimate Gristle Master model for you?
The ratio of usage.
Yeah.
What I've been doing on the road as of late is I use my Gristle 90s for slide. I keep one in open G, and I kind of have it. I do have it set up a little bit so the action's a little bit higher.
Oh, like Tom Charvel here. His action's really high. That's a callback to something. I think when we weren't even recording.
So I use, I probably use my straight T style one, the Gristle Master. I use that more. And then lately I've been bringing my 53 Tele to the gig. So I usually start.
Oh, I was going to ask about that. Like how do you, you have this Holy Grail ish? I don't know.
Yes, you're correct. It is the Holy Grail.
Is it there?
Right?
Is it in that room with you right
No,
there?
it's in the house, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't keep that. You keep that dog stays in the house.
I keep that close.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you that, and then how do you decide?
Well, it's very easy. The whole reason why that Gristle Master kind of came to fruition is because it's kind of the perfect modern tool in terms of the pickups are quiet. I get that extra little boost. It stays in tune. All of those things, and it's it has a brightness to it that really cuts. Whereas the original Tele is surprisingly dark in comparison, but sounds glorious. There's nothing that sounds like those old guitars. But I was in a room the other day when we were in Columbo, Ohio, and I plugged it in, and there was no escaping the buzz. It was like if I put any gain, it was like I was like, I can't use this tonight, so I just used.
That's Tom's sound. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. I shouldn't be allowed on the show.
I love it.
Are those pickups like? There's not even coils in it. What is it? It's like a computer?
No. It's what it is there's still magnets in there, but instead of having copper windings, there are really thin circuit boards. There was some aerospace guy that was a guitar geek, and he printed a coil on a really thin piece of circuit board, and then you stack those so that the actual windings are these stacked piece or whatever they call them, PC boards, or is that it? No, I don't know. technology astounds me. Anyway, so that by itself, that coil is kind of anemic. There's not much output. So in order to make it sound the way that it sounds, there's a preamp on board, and that kind of having that stuff on those printed circuit boards allows you the template to be able to voice it any way that you want and have multiple voicings. So it's still functioning as magnets and coil. It's just that you're now using a preamp on board to shape the tone exactly the way you want it.
I don't know if you can see this, but Tom is masturbating wildly.
You know who loves your pickups? Well, Cindy has them, and you have in a guitar you built, or is it?
Well, that's one of Rick's guitars, but I did
Kelly.
use them in one of my customs a while back, and I was surprised because I didn't know about them. I mean, we were using the acoustic pickups and stuff, but when we came out those, the guy that ordered the guitar actually was really set on having those, and I was like, what is this? You have to plug it, use USB and stuff or whatever.
Yeah, there's a little thing there. You plug it in.
Yeah, and it's crazy, like seeing your guitar plugged in that way. But the guitar, I mean, I plugged it in and I went, oh, okay.
Yeah. They sound amazing.
And we ended up ordering a bunch of them, so Rick's been putting them in, and yeah, we have a few more sets in the shop right now. We had them out yesterday.
Well, kind of to your point, when they first told me about the pickups, they're like, listen, they're battery powered. Like, I don't know, I don't want a battery in my guitar.
Yeah.
Did that feel dystopian, like having like a USB plug in your guitar?
Well, that didn't. I mean, what bothered me was the other scenario of having to put an actual battery into it, because I thought, that'd be a nightmare. But then they're like, listen, we've got this way of powering the pickups where you power it up, you plug it in for an hour and a half, and you get 300 plugged in playing hours. I'm like, well, shit,
it lasts too.
They do last long.
And you can listen to all your favorite podcasts.
Exactly. And what's nice about it too is that the input jack kind of looks like a cat's butthole. So you got the, you know what I mean?
I mean, what doesn't if you stare long enough?
Well, that's a fact.
Meow.
But a friend loaned me. We can't go out on this.
We want to play us out before we.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just as well edited. I haven't got one of those Fender acoustic things, whatever they're called, the new things.
Acoustasonic.
Yeah. And it had a USB jack, and for months I had no idea what its purpose was until the pickup stopped working.
You ran out of juice. See, that's also a Fishman thing. So Fishman did that whole system on there.
Yeah.
Hey, we're kind of running out of gas here just because of
time.
Sorry, time.
The guy who runs this place is giving us the finger right now.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Can you? Before you play us out, though,
can you play us out?
Would you? If I actually knew and was like, I would like a lesson on like chromaticism and chord tones. Could I take a lesson?
Oh, great! Now I'm masturbating.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We'll edit.
Yes, we could come up with something.
Play us out, man. Thank you so much for coming here. And we're gonna, while we listen to you play, we're gonna try and decide if you like that guitar or not.
Oh, very nice.
That's the stuff. That's how you do it.
thanks for gracing the Axe Lord's
amazing
dais. Thank you.
Thanks
This has
so
been
much,
great.
Greg.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll go into hour 2. No, just kidding.
Greg, just hang out a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Pleasure.